Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. It is exciting to be coming to you from what I believe to be the last in our series of podcasts for our 605 class. It's been exciting to use this technology as a means to kind of reach out across the internet and talk to everybody. Tonight, I want to focus on the other side of leadership. We've spent an enormous amount of time talking about the positive forms of leadership. I want to spend some time tonight talking about the other side of it and exactly what is bad leadership and how does it happen. Is there a way for us to explain what is actually going on out there? And so to start off tonight, I want us to think about an example, right? One of many examples. So there's, if you would come in with me to the picture of thinking about someone who might exemplify the idea of bad leadership. Is there any one particular example that you can give? Oftentimes, when I ask people this question out when I'm doing workshops or presentations for companies, I'll ask them if they have any examples of really great leadership, right? And some folks will raise their hands and they'll have some things to share. But almost always, when I ask someone about their experience with a bad leader or a poor leader, people have lots of stories to share, but they often tell that story with their face. When I ask that question, I can see the look come across someone, or I can see their body position actually change. And it's interesting how bad leaders or bad managers can really affect us and how they can shape our experience of work. One way to really kind of examine this is something we might call the Dr. Gordy test. To take the test, it's very simple. You simply just count up all of the people that you've been led by in the past. Think about all of the baseball coaches, or the dance teachers, or the teachers in school, right? Or the more traditional, formal kinds of leaders. Count up all of the people that you have been led with in the past. This includes anybody that you might be in a followership role with. Then count the number of people that, if given the chance to follow again, you would. If that leader called you, if that person called you, would you actually go follow them again? Would you work for them again? And then just divide that by the total number and calculate the total percentage. How many of you have leaders, more than 50%, that you would follow again? There's no doubt that all of us have had some experience with folks who, if they called, we'd probably hang up the phone. Well, I wonder then, why does this happen? Why is it, when leadership is such an important and critical variable for us to understand and to move forward with, why is it that leadership so often fails? What is it about bad leadership, right? Is it traits? Is it personality? Is it context? How does this happen? And taking this to the next step, we might take a look at our model from our text. Is it the follower? Is it the situation? Is it the leader? What is it that makes up this variable of leadership here? How do we really get at the crux of the idea of bad leadership? So we might ask the next question: who and what makes a bad leader, right? Well, let's make a list of them, right? Can we make a list of those bad leaders, and who are they, and to name them and get very specific with them? What are the issues at play here? What are the traits? What are the issues of power? What are the issues of influence? What's the situation or the context? What are things that we can kind of understand about bad leadership? If we take a look in our text, we come across these six areas: moral justification, euphemistic labeling, advantageous comparison, diffusion of responsibility, disregard or distortion, and then this idea, the final kind of straw, this idea of dehumanization. There's no doubt that all of these are deplorable things, right? The idea of moral justification, and we graduate down to the level of dehumanization. Well, what is moral justification? Well, moral justification is involved in reinterpreting otherwise immoral behavior in terms of a higher purpose. Well, but there's a higher purpose for this, so it's okay for me to kind of bend my behavior here. It's the reinterpretation of my bad behavior into really promoting a higher purpose. This idea of, well, it's okay because it's for the common good. It's for the better good. Euphemistic labeling involves using cosmetic words to cover up behavior. Things like a freedom fighter, right? Or I'm a catalyst for change in my organization, and to be a catalyst for change, I've got to act this way, right? Advantageous comparison is about comparing our behavior to that of others, which was perhaps way worse. Well, at least I don't hit my employees uh, like Jake does. At least I don't berate my employees in public like Ann does, right? Advantageous comparison is about one-upping someone else over your bad behavior. Diffusion of responsibility is about behavior that becomes easier to live with if everyone is doing it, right? The sense of, well, everybody's doing it, so it must be okay. This idea of perhaps, let's say we're celebrating a championship or something, and people are out looting in the streets. Well, looting is never okay. Stealing from someone is never okay, but there's perhaps can be this diffusion of responsibility. This idea of disregard or distortion of consequences. It's not that bad. I didn't really hurt anybody, really. I mean, nobody got killed. It's okay. Hey, no harm, no foul here, right? I doubt that would be the case if I was on the other end. And then lastly, this idea of dehumanization, using words to deny the humaneness of victims. I would encourage you, if you've not yet watched something like Schindler's List, or taken a tour through some of the museums in Washington D.C. to kind of take a look at the way in which we have dehumanized whole races, whole ethnicities of people, right? The way that we might deny humanness of someone. The idea of dehumanization, probably the worst of all bad leadership characteristics. Well, these are 6 areas when good seems to go so bad sometimes, right? These kinds of 6 areas. Well, what is it that you can do? Well, there's a couple of things that you might think about. Well, leadership development is one of those things, and leadership development can be enhanced in kind of a changing, dynamic, and uncontrollable and unpredictable environment. Sometimes we know this to be the case, which is the point of our class, that leadership is not cookie cutter. It's not something that we just put on and take off, but it really is sharpened in changing, dynamic, uncontrollable, and unpredictable environments. Places where we're tested, places where we're kind of put through the fire a little bit. Things like strategic planning, or things that might stretch individuals. Be what Thinking about what are the things that you might be able to do, right? Understanding that failure might be a possibility. What is it that we can actually do as uh, followers or as leaders? How is it that we can begin to navigate these waters? And here's what I would encourage you to do. If you ever find yourself in a position of working for a bad leader, right? Really sit down and think about where you're at and what your next step might be, and how you can begin to manage up a bit, right? Think about things that we've talked about in our class resiliency training, understanding how we might hunt for the good things, things that might help us to move through a particular season in our life, right? I think one of the largest sources of worry for organizations is that there is a lack of quality leadership and talent, particularly when it comes to this idea of bad leadership, right? And there's this sense of incompetent managers. Now, we're using the words manager and leader kind of synonymously here, but I think it's really important to know that leaders or managers, or those people in positions of influence, can really make life kind of tough for us. We can actually plot them out here, right? And using the exact same kind of grid that we've used in the past. We might look at the dimensions of leading, but to look at them in kind of the reverse sense. And we can examine those particular behaviors right here. I think we've seen this table before. Skepticism, cautiousness, reservedness, leisureliness, boldness, mischievousness, colorfulness, imaginative, diligent, and dutiful. Think about these things in excess, not just moderation. What does mischievousness look like taken to the extreme? What does boldness look like taken to extreme? What does leisureliness look like taken to extreme? If we move forward, there are a couple of things that I think some childhood games can teach us about very valuable lessons in the area of leadership. And let's just look at these for a moment. Think about the game King of the Hill, right? King of the Hill is about pushing everyone down the hill and staying on top of the hill, doing everything you can to pull, grab, scratch, kick, and fight your way to the very top. Well, leadership, as we know in this class, is not about pushing other people down. It's rather about pulling them up. Second, follow the leader. Leadership is not about making following a chore. Rather, it's about inspiring others who want to follow you. King of the Hill and follow leader, well, they don't work so well in corporate. They don't work so well in the real world. Hide and seek. Leadership is not about hiding during challenging times. Rather, it's about leading from the front. And we saw that in the Patton Museum, right? That Patton didn't want to see his men, he didn't want to see him retreating from the battlefield. So he took great pains not to hide from them, but rather to show them that he was leading from the front. And then fourth, blind man's bluff. Bad leaders have no vision. Good leaders know where they're going, and they're willing to take their people there. Think about David Novak's book, Taking People With You. If you've not read that book, you might pick a copy of that up. The button-up shirtfall here is about how we can begin to learn lessons from things that we were taught so very early in our life. And then finally, what I would suggest is the reverse of, or the opposite of bad leadership, are things like compassion, equity and inclusion, accountability, dignity, and respect. Think about what compassion looks like in action. Think about what it means to accept others and include them in our conversations, despite how they may look, despite how they may behave. How do we include those people within our circles, within our spheres of influence? How do we give and honor the dignity and the respect of every human being? These things become really critical when you're in positions of influence and position of leadership, right? So it's just a snapshot. So now what will you do? The answer is up to you. This class has been about not casting the idea of leadership onto others, but rather applying leadership as something that we do every day. Leadership as being who we are, what we see, how we act, how we treat other people. Leadership is something that we put on and we take action with. Leadership is not about looking at others and saying they're a leader, but rather looking within yourself and saying, how can I lead? And truly asking yourself, why would people follow you? Why would people follow you? It's been a blast to have this podcast series over the course of our term. I hope it's been helpful. We'll see you guys in class. Until next time. What?